Coming up. Showing off my sewing skills. Killing the microcontrollers.
I might just fry it up this microcontroller. Yeah.
Messing with electricity. So first things first, couple of weeks ago, after releasing my one of the previous video about this Fortnite player, I came up with the idea to improve it. Like, if you remember back in this video, I told that potentially the anti-cheat can detect this virtual inputs from the Windows library and etc. etc. So I came up with the idea. What if I make this autoclicker, but just in real life? And that's what it basically is. Remember in my previous experience with microcontrollers, which was the drone project, barely happily complete, it was no-brainer just to make this with this ESP controller and just a previous program. I just need somehow to combine them and understand when it was to activate all of these strange things and to push buttons. Gladly I remembered that in the electronic field there is some things which called solenoid.
And to help us, there goes some teeny tiny thing called solenoid, which when you apply current just push the rod.
And it's just exactly the things which I need. It can push something somewhere. And in my case, it will just push on the buttons on the keyboard, which suits perfectly for my needs. Do not thinking alone about this, I just came up to the local shop, buy everything which I need and start to messing around, just to understand how it works. Also a bit of harder things. This time it needs to separate electricity circuits power, consuming because ESP is just basically consuming electricity from the USB power supply. Yeah. And this whole solenoid works on 12 volts. So basically I need for this some kind of relays and also messing around with them a couple of times, figuring out how it works. For those of you who can understand my pain, it turned out it was low voltage logic relays. So not only just a couple of pins connected directly to relays wasn't enough anymore. You need connect or VCC power to ASP or ground. So okay, I figured it out and it works so perfectly. Okay, but during these things, I must admit, I have killed one of the ESP microcontroller. No, not basically the SoC of the microcontroller, just flash memory. And without flash memory, it basically can't do anything. Huh.
Yeah, and it's completely my fault to fry up this thing because I powered it via USB cable and a 5 volt which was provided by this relay board.
So I take the advantage of having local shops around here and just at the same time get another ESP on my hands and continues to work on this.
Look at this. Yeah, everything works. Oh. Strangely, it starts to disconnect from time to time. I need to investigate this properly.
Luckily for me, all these things about transferring some data throughout this serial connection between ESP and PC wasn't so bad. It was actually pretty kind of easy. Basically, the Windows library has already made it for us. So the only couple of things left to me to do, it was just to somehow implement it in a previous code and do some logic for basically understanding what the data transferring. So makes it I don't want to call it driver things, kind of driver-ish things, because you can think about this just basically encryptor, descriptor on the side of the ESP and that's all. Works fine. It took some time to do it properly and troubleshooting it, but at the end it works perfectly. Then unexpectedly for me, I faced with the problem of lacking of power. I spent a couple of days troubleshooting everything. I just tried to find the main problem why it doesn't work properly. And even more, while just testing it for a long run, it will at some point just turn off and all. The ASP tries to reboot every couple of 30 seconds or something. It was really strange. What's going here? I was thinking maybe it's just fulfilling the RAM on a ESP, checking if maybe there is memory leaking issue somewhere in the code, but luckily no. If at the beginning I used just this power stack homemade by me to power in all of the things, obviously it wasn't enough power for it, but okay, I changed another power supply. Despite being so useful for some DIY projects because of these clips. And it was kind of surprise for me to discover that it can only handle around 0.6 amp. What is these things? I certainly didn't expect this one. And even to increase these difficulties, I figured out that actually the label on the solenoids about the amperage was totally different. I swear one of which I saw on the side directly, the photos facing me, that it was 0.3 amps at work. It was even on the label. But turned out the solenoids which I actually bought was mentioned that they need 1 amp per unit to operate. Like, whoa. It was even not double, it was like triple the amperage which was mentioned on a web page. Why? Okay, redoing again everything with power source. This time I found like normal 18 volts power supply which can handle 2 amps. Connecting this power supply to this voltage drop-down controller, fine-tune it back to 12 volts. And that's it. Now, thankfully, everything works. At this point, even like this voltage drop-down controller will be some problem because it maxed 3 amps or something like that. I tested and even like 4 solenoids at the same time can operate, and even relays have some amperage for use also. So hopefully it will be not a problem at all at the next time. So it's time for showing off my exceptional building skills. Yes, it will be also as junk as possible, as every time. But before we start to sewing everything off, one of the most important things which you need always to do, take a measure of everything. Like everything which you want, measure, tape it, note it down, do everything which you want. Like don't make my mistakes.
And how consistent it would be. It's a bit of wider. But the keys is barely matching. Only D button can be a problem, but if we slide it shiftly, yeah, it would hit the target.
So after taking these measurements, we can start to sew off everything which we don't need anymore, making some mess around, cleaning after ourselves, and that's it.
The half plus additional couple of centimeters.
Continuing the tendency to make everything wrong, I will use a saw for a metal. I guess it will be okay for a wood.
Maybe even 11 to have some gap.
I mean, I can at any time just up the keyboard with something underneath. So I guess it will be fine.
D, again J, K, L. Here we go. One more. Now for a stand. It's not my best work, of course, but it's can do its things, I guess. If I will not be so lazy, I will just polish it and make it straight. Don't have much time for it, sadly.
I hadn't known back at the time that I was building, but actually these metal brackets even improve the performance of these solenoids. What I learned on the internet, they luckily to get overheated pretty easily. Like 5 to 7 seconds holding in activation state can lead them to like drastically overheat and even start to melt in all the plastic inside. So actually this metal brackets which I screwed to the planks works as an additional heat sinks, which is like incredibly great. I doubt it will like solve all of this overheating problems, but it will drastically improve the lifetime of it. So that's it. It's a time for testing everything. Look how it works and just looks on a satisfying work when somebody works for you. Yeah. Okay, it's still hits too early. I mean, yeah, it works. Can hit every button, but if your project didn't work well enough, then you just didn't add enough zip ties. Double the zip ties, double the grip. Now it holds on the same place. Actually, on the next day, I even make some fine-tuning inside the code for ESP microcontroller, and it even like starts to work better. The solenoid stops to missing the keys because of this delay issues. Not issues, it was a feature, but tends to be an issue. The delay is still in here, but they don't interrupt the solenoids to operate normally. And now they even hit more precisely all the keys, which I'm like, super happy about. Actually, at the beginning of this project, I even don't think that it will work so fine. And I'm incredibly happy that it's worked like in a way it is. It's surprisingly good. And on the next day after finishing this project, the bright idea came to my mind. What if swap the keyboard underneath the solenoids to some pot? Which is like perfectly solution if you want to turn all of your neighbors into enemies for you. It's like surprisingly loud and surprisingly annoying. It's incredibly awful things. Jeez. And again, thanks everyone who watching this video, who subscribe on this channel. I just had fun to make these things. Big thanks for you to showing off the interest for it. So have a nice day.